The Utah Tech Board of Trustees met in executive session, presumably to talk about the news and replacement of former President Richard B. Williams, who stepped down last November. A recent lawsuit filed by 3 employees claims they were unknowing victims of a practical joke by Williams left at the doorstep of the University Vice President of Marketing and Communications. Other employees who knew about the gag gift were also listed in the suit. After nearly 3 hours, the board meeting opened up with a brief mention of the progress in the hiring process.
The application portal opens again in just a couple of weeks and for a final round of applications. And all of the dates, I believe, should be on the website at this point. But we are really optimistic, and we've had, from what we are understanding, additional great interest.
Since Williams' resignation, Courtney White has been filling the role of the interim president. The process to replace Williams was at first placed in high mode with ambitions of having someone in place by fall of 2024. But that process was brought to a halt and will now reopen the nationwide search in December.
What we found is that most presidential searches last at least a year. So we were very overly ambitious in that original timeline, and we didn't want to do an inadequate job on this process. So with that, we've extended the timeline, and we will be receiving more applications in December for about a 6-week period. Fortunately, we have a nice pool to start with, a really good pool to start with, and then we'll have an opportunity to add even more during this period.
Undeterred by the unexpected shift, the board received reports about the growth and enrollment at Utah Tech. Numbers are at their highest, with a nearly 5% increase in the fall.
We're back on track with enrollment and net tuition revenue after a little bit of a lull last year. We're projecting about a $1.8 million surplus compared to budget. The projected institutional debt service for this year increased by nearly $4 million. That is concurrent with the launch of Campus View 3 and the associated debt payments on that new building.
New degrees and programs emphasize the continued need to serve students in higher education.
There is no doctorate of fine arts, so a terminal, it is the end. It's as high as you can go.
We are different than most other MFAs in the nation because we have 2 general focuses. One is we're teaching them how to teach.
We're deeply invested in the climate, the dynamic, the culture. We're deeply invested, and we have so much faith in this university.
Overall, the report looks good. Our fund balances are healthy. The campus store did earn in excess of what they spent last year, $125,000. Dining services did have a deficit last year. There are several reasons for that. One, we opened a new franchise, our Splash Drinks. We were getting used to how to operate that, and some of those expenses would have gone against the operations. We bought some equipment, and 2 things kind of caught us that we're managing right now in dining services. That our labor costs went up and the amount of labor we're using went up. And pricing changed pretty significantly along the way with inflation, and we reacted to that.
And plans to expand the food court and putting in a new space for Chick-fil-A could come at a cost of around $1 million.
Next year will again be a challenging year because we're going to relocate Chick-fil-A. Our Chick-fil-A location is not optimal. It's sandwiched in the corner of the Trailblazer Cafe. It does not have the front end support or the back end support it needs. So what we are going to do is we are going to relocate it into Conference Room D. We're going to open that corner up, and that entire piece will be Chick-fil-A.
New buildings continue to rise up with reports of more students living on campus and using new campus resources. Athletics is also still looking for the remodeling and funding for the women's softball field complex.
So we received a $2 million commitment. It's really a challenge grant from Diane Lyman on the softball facility. They gave us $1 million several years ago. We haven't been able to use it yet because that facility is probably a $5 or $6 million renovation of the softball facility and complex. So this time the Lyman said, look, we'll give you another, or Diane said, we'll give you another $2 million, but you've got to raise $2 million in order to get that $2 million.
While the news of the lawsuit didn't come out publicly until just a few weeks ago, it has been unsettling to many on and off campus. A recent editorial and article in the university's Sun News painted a lack of confidence in potential candidates who are already on staff.
Our growth over the past 10 years not only exceeds what we've seen in the state, but really nationwide. It's hard to even compare what we've been able to do during that time. So this choice for us is very, very important, that we get the president that will help us continue that same kind of trajectory forward.
The search committee will vet the candidates down to only a few by April, leaving the final decision to the Utah Board of Education, which was also named in the lawsuit.
The search committee, which is comprised of administrators, faculty, staff, students, and community members, it's a 14-member search committee. We will review all of these applications, and at that point we will select most likely from 6 to 8 semifinalists to proceed in the process. The state board will take all of that information and their interview and make a decision on our next president. So we have all the faith in the world in the state board, and we are optimistic about what is coming for our next president and for our university in the future.
From Utah Tech University, Melissa Anderson, Community Education News.